Hey everyone, welcome back to The Moment Live. It is Friday. It is Meredith Lynch, and I'm here with my old pal, Rebecca Sananès, as always, getting your Friday started in a way that feels a little less unhinged.
Is it a little less unhinged?
Well, I'll say this. There was no crazy pop culture news this week.
I know, that's true.
We have something to talk about. We're going to talk about the Harry Potter of it all, but there was no Taylor Frankie Paul. There's no big celebrity divorces. I knew this week was slow because all I kept getting was an intimate moment between Taylor and Travis. And I was like, that's not,
I know.
Right?
Yes, that's so true. I also the Lindy discourse is starting to die down on threads. The people who are hanging on to it most are trying to re-rev the engine. I'm like, it's going away, friends. So yeah, I know.
But it's gonna swing back now. It's gonna turn. I put up a hot take and I was like, ooh, I think I'm just hitting this. If I did this a week later, people would be in defense of Lindy.
Oh,
you know what I
think
mean?
That now it's gonna be the backlash of Lindy.
Well, the backlash of the people who spoke out.
Got it.
Right? You only have so much time because I'm seeing it with Taylor Frankie Paul now.
Yeah.
Last week was everybody was oh my God, Taylor Frankie Paul, so bad. And now this week it's starting to turn into I'll never forget this thing I heard her mother say to her.
The internet is a wild ride, people.
Well, and so is this show. Because today on the show, we're going to get right into it. We have, this is, not to quote our friend of the show, Aaron Parnas, we have breaking news. We'll talk a little bit about this DHS partial deal. TSA is going to be funded, ICE out of airports, which thank God. Trump's Iran deadline and Iran's denial of talks. Then we're going to talk a little bit about HBO Harry Potter and the Olympics trans ban. And then we have a great guest today. We have Amanda Litman, who's going to talk to us a little bit about, just progressive people running. There was a really exciting Florida House seat that was flipped this week by a woman named Emily Gregory. And I am really excited to talk to her about that. She is the CEO of Run for Something.
Yeah.
So, maybe she likes to be called executive director.
I don't know, but
we'll have to ask her. I'll check.
But it is a cool, until I saw her do this, I was I don't know if I would have any template for how you would run for Congress if you'd never run for it or anything, and
especially in a red area.
Oh, for sure.
I think that's a big part of it. But first things first.
Yes.
You probably, hopefully, will no longer be seeing ICE in the airport, which I think is a relief to everyone, because did you see what they were doing? A whole lot of nothing. But after 2 months of negotiations, it seems as though Democrats and Republicans have found some type of deal to make this. You guys, it's live, so sometimes we have to, just like me, they long to be close to you.
How many times on the show do we break out into song?
More than I should, because my sister said you have the better voice.
Well,
yeah, that's what she said.
Thank you, Nora Lynch.
After you sang Celine Dion, not the last time, the time before. She said that. But anyway, back to the lecture at hand. So it seems as though there is a deal that will fund the Department of Homeland Security, but not in the way that Republicans wanted, because it's no additional funding for ICE and not additional funding for parts of Customs and Border Protection. And it's really interesting because right before we got on here, producer Vienna was Sharon McMahon, friend of the show, was saying that this is a win for no one. So I guess it's a tie. I don't know. And you felt differently about that. And I'd love to hear what you think.
I just think look, it's not a win exclamation point, but we've seen the Democrats cave for so many things. And part of this negotiation was that it was tied to the SAVE Act. Trump was we're not going to fund it unless they agree to vote for the SAVE Act. And then Republicans have now and Democrats were trying to get this funding for TSA while withholding funding for ICE and CBP so that they could continue to negotiate reforms. And the reforms have not been negotiated yet. And ICE has more than enough money to keep going. There's all sorts of, but at least for once, it wasn't the Democrats who caved. Republicans caved. Democrats didn't have to acquiesce to the Save America Act. And the fight to get ICE reforms, I don't think anybody's going to abolish ICE anytime soon, but at least some reforms still goes on and TSA will get paid. And I don't know. I think in a world where nobody is winning anything, I think that's better than nothing. The last couple of shutdowns, Democrats were like, I guess whatever.
Yeah. I think a win is a win.
A win is a win.
I don't want ICE to get more funding. And it's like, I think this is the other piece of this is like, you know, I think one of the problems that the Democratic Party like has sometimes is like, cause I want it all or nothing at all.
Like once again,
singing on the show. That's a little bit of O-Town, who I feel like could not have existed without the Clinton administration. That's a whole other.
Wow.
That's another.
In this essay, I will.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, it's so funny. Somebody wrote in and they were like, well, if it wasn't for 9/11, we wouldn't even have to have TSA. And I'm like, well, if it wasn't for the United States presence in the Middle East, we wouldn't have had. We're not ready to have that conversation.
Okay. I think we might have to have that conversation though, because our next story speaks directly to this.
I think it's true.
No, I think you're
okay.
No.
I thought you thought I was being too controversial.
No. I think wait until you see this video that Iranian state media put out.
Yeah.
And then I think let's talk about it on the other end. But let's catch up on what's happening in the current war in the Middle East. The war in Iran, it's almost over. It's just beginning. Talks are happening. Talks are not happening. Nobody knows. And certainly President Trump doesn't know. This week, President Trump delayed military action against Iran, giving a second deadline to open the Strait of Hormuz. He had given a deadline earlier. Then he said, give him another 10 days. It feels a lot like the tariffs where he's like,
and can you just remind people what impact that has on folks? Because the Strait of Hormuz is important.
Yeah. Okay. Like full disclosure, I'd never heard of the Strait of Hormuz until this conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So, with a grain of salt, but I think a fifth of the world's oil travels through this strait. So like a big portion of the world's oil has to travel through this strait in order to come to the United States. And so when it's backed up and closed, oil has to go through other places. It's stalled. It can't come. And so the price of oil goes up. And then on top of it, when the price of oil goes up, all of us, at the gas pump, in our heating bills, and, oil, it runs America. And then on top of it, the stock market doesn't like it. And so this week also the stock market took its first big tumble since the start of this war. And as we know, Trump is sort of upset. I think even in the first administration, it was always about what is the market doing and what do business people think? And so I think he sort of bit off more than he could chew here. And from what I'm hearing in my research from people who did know about the Strait of Hormuz before this conflict, everybody says in every war game scenario with Iran, this is part of it. They will immediately shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Everybody who's ever studied war in that region with Iran knew this was going to happen. They knew it was going to happen. This is their strategy. And the fact that the Trump administration seems to have not and doesn't really know how to reopen it is, he's doing great, sweetie.
Yeah. I mean, I was just listening on NPR to The Daily about episode about rising gas prices. And, I think that's where it hits consumers.
Yeah.
And then people find all sort of things and they're like, but it's okay to pay a little bit more at the pump because we got to win the war. And I'm like, you should visit the World War I Museum. They have been feeding you this bullshit.
Well,
forever.
And I think especially with this war, I don't think people are buying it. After 9/11, I think people, there was no impetus for this war. Nobody knows really why now this war. I mean, I think there's a couple of different, but it's not there was some triggering event. Trump just sort of went for it with no real plan. And I think that he actually genuinely bit off more than he can chew. And I think it's going to affect his bottom line, with voters. So
I think the MAGA cult still buys into it because they're like, he knows things. He's anointed. He knows things that we don't ever know. And they do buy that.
Totally.
But that's not everybody. And that's
not
a really important thing to remember is I think I said this to you a while ago, but somebody said to me, you have to remember half of the country voted for Trump. And I'm like, Yeah, half of the country did not vote for Trump.
That's right.
Like a lot of the country just didn't vote.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of people who I think like didn't vote for Trump, didn't vote for Kamala Harris, but they don't want to be at war. So that might drive them to the polls.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think that this is bad for him, like financially and at the polls. But there was also, okay, back to your point about whether the United States stirs this shit up for itself. Iranian state media sent out this AI propaganda clip that went across the internet. And I find it, really terrifying, but also fascinating. And I want to play it and I want to talk about it.
The fact that they evoked Epstein Island, I think, is so interesting.
I have so many thoughts, starting with Trump is saying that they're about to have negotiations and like ceasefire, like this war is coming to an end. And then Iran like says, no, we're not having negotiations, releases this video. And I'm like, I don't think that they're slowing down over there. I don't think that they want to stop. I think what I found so fascinating about this, other than the fact that it is really scary, although to be clear, defense intelligence agencies report Iran does not currently have the missile capabilities to hit the United States, just like to assuage.
Do we have the capabilities, though, to give that facelift to the Statue of Liberty?
The Satan Statue of Liberty. Well, okay, so this is why I think it's so interesting is it speaks to a certain faction of the American public who views America in this way. Like I do think they started with Native Americans. They went to Hiroshima, Vietnam, the wars across the Middle East, Palestine, Yemen, and included a little girl on Epstein Island. And it's like they hit all of these, like it's I in some ways I think it's a propaganda for people in the United States.
I don't think enough people in the United States are going to see it.
You don't think so?
No.
Oh, I saw it everywhere. I saw it on Reddit.
I didn't see it once. But like, who's on Reddit? Not young people.
Fair. Yeah.
Like, and so I think like people who vote, who are like Fox News watchers or like even like, I don't think that they're on Reddit. Like, I think they see this and they're like, oh, this is like, it is also because it's AI. Like,
I don't know. I feel like the Hassan Pikers.
Oh yeah, that group. But like, I think one of the things that we keep like forgetting is like how small that fraction is.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. Like I don't think that like the person who is like kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to vote or not, who like lives like, in Kansas or something is like going on Reddit or listening to Hassan Piker.
Oh, I feel like this is like the type of stuff that ends up in like the manosphere. And like, I think this is exactly the type of stuff that ends up like in internet spaces.
But I don't think those people are on internet spaces like that.
Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? But this feels, I don't know. It feels like it is a call to arms. I think it is like a distinct narrative that I just wasn't expecting out of Iran. Like when they say, it's just like very interesting, it's interesting.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening back here. I mean, I guess technically this is a little across the pond, but HBO debuted its new Harry Potter series this week. I think we have a clip.
The next time I see you will be in Hogwarts.
Mr. Potter, I think we can expect great things from you.
I just don't understand why this is necessary.
Okay, I think that has been the general consensus is like it looks exactly the same as the original movies. We already have the books. The only thing that I think maybe that I see is that they just debuted HBO in the UK. And I didn't realize that there was no HBO.
Jesus, what have those people been doing for the last 40 years?
I know they've been watching
BritBox,
the BBC. That's why they're so obsessed with the royals over there.
Seriously. Oh my God, get on our motherfucking level.
Yeah, but I didn't realize that is just literally this week they debuted HBO streaming in the UK. And it made me wonder whether this is attached to it. And then also I saw somebody point out like, Warner Brothers already owns this property and they have these giant theme parks that they have to like regenerate interest in every once in a while. And I was like, oh, from that perspective, I understand why some executive was like, hey, we need more people in our theme parks. Let's get people excited. But I agree. Like, I kind of looked at this and I was like, this looks almost like shot for shot the exact same movie that I saw in, 2001 or whenever it first came out. But I think also another thing is like now people hate JK Rowling.
Yeah, they do. And so I think that doesn't bode well either. I think what they're probably banking on is the fact that like TV shows in a lot of ways I think are more lucrative than movies now because you can just like drag them on.
You can drag them on forever. Yeah.
So long.
Yeah.
And so I think like they're like, this is a great moneymaker. I think like we can get enough people who also too, not all, but like a lot of people who grew up with Harry Potter now have kids.
Yeah.
So they're like, we can, we can dip into that nostalgia factor. I think that's how American Girl made a huge comeback is they were like, oh my gosh, millennial women are now having children. So they want to get the dolls. So anyway, I think, I don't have any use for any more Harry Potter propaganda in the world. And especially now knowing what we know about JK Rowling, even if JK Rowling was a trans advocate, I think I'd be like, I'm all set with Harry Potter. I don't need any more Harry Potter in the world.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's the kind of thing that I like might watch with my family, but whenever it came out, when the Free Press started, Barry Weiss is like deep cut. When the Free Press started, they started with a miniseries, a podcast about JK Rowling and like looking at the trans backlash. And it was like very well produced. And I listened to it and everybody was like, and my take when I listen to JK Rowling talk about this issue, I'm like, I say this in like deep quotations, I'm like, she seems deeply disturbed by men and like experiences she's had with men, and then puts that on trans people. Like whenever I hear her, I'm like, I don't think that you're afraid of trans people. I think you're afraid of men, and then you're scapegoating trans people to make that argument for yourself almost. Like it was so strange listening to her because I was like, this logic is so convoluted. Like no trans person has ever done anything to you is what you're saying. And yeah. And also the International Olympic Committee at the same time is banning trans athletes. So it's like she's causing harm, and like on a bigger level, there's harm happening to the trans community.
Yeah, and I think like something that I was reading about last night is 0.002% of college NCAA athletes are trans. So it's like, okay, how many of those people even make it to the Olympics? Like the chances of you making it to the Olympics are the same as you winning the Powerball. They're so fucking slim that I don't think it's like I just think it's a waste of time. But I
think it's a waste of time. I think, it's just all like a scapegoat.
Anyway, I think we have a guest in the waiting room. We're so excited. We have with us today Amanda Litman. She is the co-founder and president of Run for Something, which recruits and supports young, diverse leaders running for local office, which is like that's where the real change happens.
Yeah.
They've been doing this since 2017. They've launched the careers of thousands of millennials and Gen Z candidates. This is especially a great week to be talking to her because there's so many reasons, but there was a great election and we're going to get into it. Amanda Litman, welcome to The Moment Live.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited.
Yeah, we are too. We've been wanting to have you for a long time.
Okay, so you had a really big week this week because one of your candidates, Emily Gregory, flipped a Florida House seat in a district that includes Mar-a-Lago. We gotta know, like, how do you make that happen?
Emily Gregory is just the best kind of candidate for this district. She is from the area. She has family there. She's a military spouse. She's a healthcare worker, has a background in public health, and she did the work. She knocked doors. She talked to voters. She talked about the things they care about affordable housing and healthcare and clean water, climate change, like the stuff that is really on people's minds. And she was able to flip this deeply Republican district. And we have had so many candidates like her do the same over the last 2 years in a way that makes me so excited for November, because I think we're going to have so many more.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit? Is like, what types of races are you looking at? I think that, like, you know, at the top level we look at, we're like, is Gavin Newsom running for president? And yeah, that face.
Mhm.
And meanwhile, there's all these races in very, you know, small, big, in different places. Can you talk about like what type of races you're looking at flipping?
Yeah, so Run for Something just works on things like state house, state senate, city council, school board, library board, the 500,000 elected offices that are not president, not Congress, but that actually do shit for people.
Yeah.
Like when you think about housing is a city council or state legislative issue. When you think about childcare, it's a state leg, governor, mayor, city council type issue. When you think about reproductive health or voting, that's happening at the state and local level. So sure, it's really important to flip the house. It's really important who's going to be president in 2028. But when you're talking about the stuff that's going to make your life better immediately, it's all the local.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, and it's actually something that Republicans have been really good at for a very long time. Can you kind of walk us through, like, what have Republicans done that have been able to like make this work and galvanize people at these levels?
They invest for decades. Like they think about it as a long-term effort so that it's okay if you lose a little cycle after cycle because ultimately you get to win. So the way that they turned a place like Arkansas, which used to be a Democratic state, or Kentucky, which used to be a Democratic state, or West Virginia, which used to be a Democratic state, is by over time flipping counties, school boards, changing the way that the culture works, changing what they're learning in schools, changing the rules around voting. You win the small elections so that you can ultimately win the big ones, both like structurally and then also because you have the talent. Like you have the candidates, you have the leaders, you have people like Marco Rubio who started in the state ledge, or Ted Cruz who started in local office, or any of these other numbnuts that start locally and move their way up. You know, it is not sexy. It's not flashy. It doesn't make for good headlines. It is the building blocks of political power.
Are there states that you're looking at in that same way? You know, you just said Arkansas, Kentucky, West Virginia used to be Democrat, flipped to red. Are there states that you're looking at in that same way that you're like, I bet if we started now, where are we looking?
Yeah, so Run for Something works in all 50 states, but earlier in the fall, we put out what we call our Battle Up Plan, which is a vision for a dozen states where we thought our particular intervention could play a difference in turning them into competitive battlegrounds in some way, shape, or form, especially after redistricting in 2030 and 2032. So that includes Arizona, North Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Florida, Utah, Nebraska, Iowa, Idaho, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Ohio. Now, you might be like, what are you talking about, Idaho? We're never going to win Idaho. You're right. The presidential campaign, we're never going to win Idaho. But in 2032, there's going to be a second congressional seat in Idaho. And wouldn't it be good if we had a Democrat who could win it when it's around Boise? Like Boise has some, Democrats, but we need more. If we're going to be able to flip that kind of House seat or have people besides Sherrod Brown who could run for Senate in Ohio or besides Roy Cooper who could run for Senate in North Carolina, we got to build a bench.
Yeah. You know, I'm thinking a little bit going back to the Emily Gregory of it all. So who do you think was voting for Emily Gregory? Do you think it was like people who voted for Trump in the 2024 election?
So I was looking at some early stats, and it seems like a decent number of the people who showed up to vote for her voted in Republican primaries or are Republicans in some way, have like indicated, given signals, about 10%, I think, of the votes have indicated. So it's not just that there's increased turnout in these special elections. Like she's persuading people, or at least giving them an opportunity to say, hey, I do not like what the fuck is going on. I don't like it. And I'm going to like indicate that.
Like, what do you think is the thing that's persuading people in that district specifically? Like, do you think it's Epstein?
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me how much they probably have interacted with it. No, I actually think for most of our candidates, the thing that persuades their voters is how hyper local they're talking. So like Emily Gregory was talking about property taxes, and in particular, the way that one of the laws that they want to pass would have screwed over renters, which is a big deal for people. Like, you're talking about cost of home, you're talking about affordability, it's housing, it's childcare, it's healthcare. So being able to talk about that stuff in a way where they can see what it would look like if she won, like they can understand what it would feel like, hugely important.
Can you speak to like what does Run for Something do? What does that ground game actually look like? Because I remember when I first saw you guys maybe like a year or two ago. First of all, I was like, maybe I should run for something. Like, like but it's because it hadn't really occurred to me until you put it out there. And then the next step, which I didn't take, is like, yeah, I wouldn't even begin really to know how to run for something as somebody who's never run for office. So what do you guys do to help people?
So a big part of it is exactly your experience, telling people you can run for office because you can, and you should. You should absolutely think about it. I'd love to have a more deeper conversation about it. So we ask people to sign up with us at runforwhat.net. Run for What is where you can enter your address and look up what offices you can run for in your area. It'll tell you the filing deadlines. It'll tell you like how much the offices pay, how much you might have to spend to run or raise to run, and give you a sense of the deadlines. From there, you'll join the Run for Something community. This is an online space where you can talk to other people thinking about running. You can talk to our experts, talk to our partners. You can enroll in one of our 2 free training tracks, either for now or for later, to help you get ready to run. You can also, once you're on the ballot, apply for our endorsement. Now, our endorsement is actually pretty tough to get. We only endorse about half the people who apply. You have to be 40 or under. You have to be running for state or local office for the first time. And you have to align with us on values. That doesn't mean we have to agree on every policy, because if you're running in, say, the New York City Council, you're not going to be maybe talking about gun safety the same way that someone running in Alaska or Iowa will. That's okay. Totally. As long as we're all like rowing in the same direction, we're all good. And once you're endorsed, we work directly with your campaign. You need help getting access to the voter file, or you don't know what the voter file is and you know you need it, but once you've got it, what do you do with it? We can help you with that. Is the state party not answering your emails? We can help you with that. Do you need help making ads or prepping for a forum or getting press? We are there for you every step of the way. That's how we've helped elect more than 1,654 people across 49 states plus DC.
Wow. Okay. To that end, the thing that I picked out of all the many just wonderful things you just said there, you said 40 and under. Can we talk about young people running for office? What's blocking them? What's getting them in? We saw Kat Abigazale almost take it in Illinois. Like it feels like there is starting to be a groundswell in our generation and younger. What's blocking people and what gets people excited under 40 to run? And what are they looking for?
There's a lot of structural issues. Like, it's really hard to run for office if you have a full-time job, if you don't have a ton of money, if you have kids or you have caregiving responsibilities. Really, really hard. That doesn't mean it's not impossible, but that often feels like a barrier.
Yeah.
And the gatekeepers that be, the folks that used to decide who could or should not be a candidate, did not think young people worth investing in. They were like, young people can't raise money. Therefore, they're risky bets. Screw them. Other thing here is that a lot of older leaders, and we've seen this over the last year, are staying in office so long that it becomes impossible for there to even be opportunities.
Yeah.
Like, I've been one of the perhaps most vocal advocates for every Democrat over the age of 70 to retire, to make this their last term, to create space for younger leaders, in part because if they're holding on to power, someone else can't take it, or at least it's not going to be fun if they do.
Yeah.
I think there's so much enthusiasm. We had 80,000 people raise their hands to run for office last year. That's more than we had in the entirety of Trump's first term. It's huge.
Wow. Yeah, that is huge.
Okay, I have to read you this thread that was up yesterday that I am obsessed with. So I don't know this creator, but or I actually don't. Maybe they're more of a journalist. But Being Devin Nichols wrote, "We have a serious problem with progressive media. This is going out to." I also like that this is going out tonight. A long distance dedication. This is going out to Midas Touch, Brian Tyler Cohen, Adam Mokler, and David Pakman. You're all doing an awful job of highlighting new candidates running for office. You all talk about how we need strong leaders for the Democratic Party, and we need to do this together, and yet you are gatekeeping and getting very cozy with the establishment. Amanda Litman, do you have a hot take on this?
A lot of men that was targeted at. Which,
thank you.
Yes, this is what we were like, I feel like the Democratic Party has some other problems that are very highlighted.
You're perpetuating it.
That have highlighted within this thread.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I think about a lot, which is sort of an adjacent hot take to this, is that when people talk about who gets to be seen as authentic, which candidates are like real people, and how do you perform that authenticity? How do you prove it? They'll talk about going on Rogan or The Manosphere or Flagrant. It's like, boy, you know what those shows don't book? Women.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure. It's like such a clearly gendered way of understanding who gets to be authentic, what authenticity looks like, where you have spaces to perform. That's why I'm so glad that you guys are doing this, because it's at least, an environment where like incredible women candidates and gender nonconforming candidates and all kinds of candidates can show up and have a conversation that doesn't feel so fucking broken.
And audiences who would otherwise be like, I don't want to listen to Joe Rogan, or like I don't feel safe listening to these other guys. Like
I don't need to listen to men talk for 3 hours. I have but one wild and precious life. I don't need to do that.
Yeah, why would I spend it listening to men?
You mentioned Gavin Newsom before, and I think it brings up a really interesting point. I have been a little lightly vocal that like Gavin Newsom probably wouldn't be my first pick for the Democratic nominee in 2028. And whenever I say this, I get a lot of pushback of people saying to me like, stop it. You're going to ruin it for the party. This is how we ended up with Trump. This is, Amanda's not on Threads enough, I think. Are you on Threads enough?
I'm on Threads the same amount I'm on all internet, which is certainly too much.
Okay, fair enough. But anyway, this is always the pushback that I get, that Meredith Lynch in California, have somehow single-handedly ruined the Democratic Party if I say that I don't like Gavin Newsom. And so when you hear that rhetoric in 2026 about people being like, we got to be all in and we got to be all in this together for an election that's in 2028, what do you think from a run for something perspective?
We have so many elections between now and then. If you really care, if Gavin Newsom is your guy, if you think it's the most important thing you could possibly do, what are you doing to make California a better place to live? Like, what are you doing to get housing more affordable in California, to prove that he's a good governor? If you're not like having his back in that way, you're yapping on the internet.
Lots of yapping on the internet.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, okay, the Save America Act hit another snag today. Love to see it, but could still happen, could disrupt mail-in ballots. Although, LOL, the funniest part about this Emily Gregory story is that Trump used a mail-in ballot in order to vote, which, okay. Are there ways in which you are preparing for the possibility for voting to change with the Save America Act, or with like decreased mail-in ballots? Is that something that you think about affecting run for something candidates?
It's certainly something on the specter, but I don't expect it to pass. There's really strong strategists who are thinking about this. The other thing I keep thinking about is that if they pass, it is really going to screw over Trump's coalition.
Yeah.
I think it is both morally repugnant, it is unconstitutional, it is horrific in every possible way. It's also stupid politics. Like, the low propensity voters that have made up Trump's victories in 2024 and 2016 are not going to be excited to jump through more hoops to vote. Whereas I think we can say pretty sure, like confidently, Democrats will crawl through broken glass to vote in this election.
Yeah. Amen.
I'm kind of surprised that Trump didn't make sort of a scene of going to Florida to vote, because like I feel like that would have been such a like, hey, this is a great Caroline, this would have been really good. Like Trump being like, come hell or high water, you must find a way to vote. I myself will travel. Like that could have been great, but he's too tired.
But he also he was in Mar-a-Lago. That's the thing. Is like he actually was there.
He's there all the time.
I think he just forgot. And like Susie Wiles put his ballot on his desk and was like, don't forget to vote. And he was like, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't think he even knew he voted.
Yeah, well, and he had really loudly and proudly endorsed Emily's opponent. Like, he didn't just vote, like, he went all in.
Yeah.
Trump's a loser. I've been saying it for years.
Hey, Trump's a loser. How do people run for something, Amanda? How do people find you? If somebody is out there listening and she's like, yeah, you know what? Screw that guy. It's time for me to...
she, or he, or they, them.
Or they, them. Yes.
Yes. But mostly she.
But mostly she in our audience. Let's be real.
You can go to runforwhat.net and look up what you might want to run for. And to learn more about the organization, you can go to runforsomething.net. And I would be remiss if I didn't say Tuesday, March 31st, is National Run for Office Day, everyone's favorite holiday, which is a great moment to ask the people you know and love to run for office.
Yeah. What's open in California? What should we be running for?
Oh, there's all kinds of stuff, especially school boards in the next year or so are going to be hugely important in California. So if you're thinking about running, look up what's on ballot near you, but think about school board.
I love it. Amanda Litman is going to be the architect for like the next generation,
Yeah.
I often feel like the people who used to see the bands before they were cool. Like, oh, I saw them at the 930 Club before they were playing in the arena tour. That's how I feel about politicians, which is like the most nerdy thing about me, but it's fun.
Before you go, who are you like looking at that you're like, I helped that person's first race and they're going someplace? Is there any where like
James Tallarico, Mallory McMorrow, Sarah McBride, Yasemin Ansari down in Arizona, Francesca Hong, who's running for governor in Wisconsin, who is incredible. This one, Alexis Hill, who's running for governor in Nevada, amazing. Megan Hunt in Nebraska, who's a state senator there. Unclear what her long-term trajectory is, but incredible leader in Nebraska. There's just so many. There's so many.
Well, we can't wait to see, and we hope you'll come back and talk more about all these candidates, especially as the midterms ramp up.
Great work.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye. Thank you.
Are you going to run for office?
I mean, I've always sort of been like, maybe a one-day thing, but I remember when she started this, I was like, oh, that is like, you can do that. And, like you can be 25 and doing it. Like there's so many people, I think it's amazing.
It is amazing. I know. And, especially I think that like the approach that they have of looking at these like state and local elections is so key because it is something the Republicans are so good at.
100%. You made such a good point that they've been doing this forever and like good that they're doing, we're doing it now.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, what's having a moment for you?
Okay, well, you mentioned Threads, and like I love Threads. I think Threads is like, it hasn't gotten totally warped quite yet, like it's still like new enough, it's still a space that's figuring itself out. And this week, like slowly, Christina Ricci, millennial icon, started like telling people to fuck off on Threads, like women who were saying, that basically like women should stay home. Like Christina Ricci really had a moment on Threads this week where she just started like showing her true colors. And it was like Wednesday Addams is ready for blood. And so Christina Ricci on Threads is what's having a moment for me.
I love that. It's funny because like imagine how embarrassing it would be to like check your notifications and you have a fuck off from
Christina Ricci.
I don't know. I mean, I think, and also I love her. I don't know if we can pull up her profile picture, but like, if you guys like zoom in, you'll see it's a picture of her when she was a little girl.
We've loved her for so long. And like, okay, we've talked about this a lot is like, how should celebrities show up in this moment and use their platform? And like, there's a million ways. And like, Lord knows I don't have the answer, but this was one where I was like, yeah, this is how I want it. Like, it just makes me feel good to know that Christina Ricci equally is like, this is bullshit and I hate it. Yes! Oh my gosh.
She's so funny because sometimes you see a little kid and they have the same exact face that they have now. It's not everybody has this.
No, she has
but they have like, I don't know if Vienna can get a picture of George W. Bush when he was a little boy, but he is a copy paste face.
Yeah.
And I think it's fascinating.
Yeah. And Christina Ricci is just like, I remember she was just like so cool growing up. Roberta from Now and Then, the girl from Casper, Wednesday Addams, the little girl in Mermaids. Like she just like, she grew up with us and I just loved it. She wasn't like
Are you going to drop that she's a little bit older than us?
She's a little bit older than us. Which is
Rebecca's
important.
Flex.
I'm Gen Z.
You're not Gen. Oh my God. I can't believe that person. I have this troll who makes fake accounts about me. And I made a joke that said that I'm the face of Gen Z, which I totally know that I'm not. And that as evidenced by the Botox appointment that I have later today, but I'm not the face of Gen Z. And so they took this like very unflattering screenshot of me and made a fake account called the alleged face of Gen Z. And then I DM'd them and I was like, hey, just so you know, like this does not face me. And they were like, yes, it does. I can tell. And I was like, yeah, it really doesn't. And then they promptly deleted the account. So I was like, I don't know.
George W. Bush.
Oh my God, look at that little baseball uniform.
Yeah. He and I were born in the same hospital.
Really? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I knew he was born in Connecticut because I did read Barbara Bush's memoir.
You did?
Yeah, I did. Because I had a friend who was reading it and was like, oh, it's pretty interesting, actually. And I did think it was pretty interesting.
Huh.
I know. I was at the library. I was like, you know what? I'm going to check this out.
Good for you.
It was also like really sad. They had a daughter who died.
Oh, I didn't know that.
A little girl named Robin who died of leukemia in like a matter of like, I don't know, 8 months. It's a very like back in the maybe 1960. Yeah. Anyway, wow. Way to kill the mood, Meredith. But anyway,
What's having a moment
if we
for
pull
you?
up a photo of dead Robin, I will literally lose my mind because it's so sad. Thank you, Vienna.
Vienna says absolutely
I
not.
could cry this morning, but I don't think we need to do it on camera. You know what's having a moment for me is just like all of these women who are running for office. Like I'm just sort of blown away by this, and it's like, you know, you see these like tweets from people like or not tweets, threads by being Devin Booker, and it's like, why is Midas touch? It's like, yeah, and like, guess what? Like, you're not mentioning any women.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the problem. And I just love that there are women in these spaces. And we've been meeting with a lot of people, a lot of like badass women behind the scenes in these spaces with conversations about our show. And we have a serious problem with progressive media. Also, I really love that he did it like this. This one's going out to Midas touch. Brian Tyler Cohen. And here's the other thing. It's like, I also am like, how many times have like, I've been like, oh, I feel like they could have got a woman to do that. And then it's Brian Tyler Cohen.
Yeah, it's always Brian. Okay, this is a real thing. I really do think that there is a fundamental problem here. It is all white men doing progressive media, except
I just want to say there are women of color, there are non-binary people, but not at the same,
at the same level.
Right,
Yeah,
like if we had to make a list of how many there are that are like getting XYZ traction, white men would far, and we're white women, so like, you know, acknowledge, but like white men would far outweigh, and Pew research backs that up. That's
time.
The other piece of this is like research backs that up. And so like, I also think that why being Devin Booker couldn't call out women on that is that I think women are having more of the conversations with the progressive candidates. So it's like, I don't see you listing women on those.
Yeah.
And like, you know, to their credit, Midas Touch has Katie Fang on their roster.
Who's awesome.
Who's fucking amazing. The Bulwark was interviewing Al Gore.
I saw.
I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. Where did you dig that body up from? Oh my God.
Wow. George Bush and Al Gore reference in one show in 2026.
Also, like,
really current.
Tim Miller was really trying to land the plane with the jokes. And like, I was like, I don't think he's getting this, Tim Miller. Answer my DMs. Come on our show.
Yeah.
Anyway, you guys will be back on Monday.
Tuesday. Day of Trans Visibility.
I know we're going to do a really great episode around that.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. Plus, you guys, we're going to get a little insider tea on Tuesday's episode because you know that the scandal of the moment this week has been
a feud.
That we have been blocked by Tom Sandoval and his girlfriend Victoria, whose last name I cannot I just have willed myself to never know. But anyway, we're going to have on former friend of these people, Billy Lee. I don't know if Billy's ever been friends with Victoria, to be fair.
Sure.
But Billy Lee was on Vanderpump Rules and was really close with Tom. And I think that probably has traveled with Tom and might be able to shed light on the accusation that he does not have TSA pre-check. All right, you guys, come back next week. We can't wait to hang out with you. As always, thank you to everybody who makes this show happen. We'll see you later.
Bye.